All right, welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive.
Always.
Okay, so today we're diving into the concept of frequency.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, and specifically how it relates to success and well-being.
I like it.
Now, all this comes from a conversation with someone who really believes that their own life transformation
Okay.
is tied to understanding and using this whole idea of frequency.
Right off the bat, they make some pretty strong claims.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, they basically say that keeping a high frequency is like the secret
Hmm.
of successful people, like a hidden advantage or something.
All right, so let's break that down for our listener then.
Yeah, let's do it.
What are we even talking about when we say frequency here?
Right, exactly.
It's not radio waves or anything.
Definitely not radio waves, no.
Okay, good.
It's more like the kind of energy you put out there,
Okay.
and then because of that energy, you attract certain things into your life.
I see. So the energy you project kind of draws in similar experiences.
That's the idea.
Okay.
They use this example of like feeling super excited and joyful.
Mm-hmm.
Those would be like high frequency states.
Right.
But they also talk about it like a whole spectrum.
Interesting.
So on one side, you have low frequency stuff,
Okay.
which is your more basic animalistic reactions.
Like fear and anger.
Exactly. Fear and anger, that kind of thing.
Right.
And then on the other end, the high end, that's where you get to this God level of existence.
Wow. Okay, so it's not just about feeling good, it's a whole different way of being.
Exactly.
How does that actually play out in someone's life?
Well, they talk about how, believe it or not, financial security
Really?
can actually help protect you from those low frequency states.
Oh, that's interesting.
Their argument is if you're constantly struggling just to get by, you don't really have the luxury
Mm-hmm.
of sitting around and being negative.
I guess that makes sense.
It's almost like having that basic level of security frees you up
Yeah.
to function at a higher frequency.
So our external circumstances, like financial stability, can actually affect our internal state.
That's part of it, yeah.
But then it also sounds like our internal state, like our mindset,
Right.
can then influence what happens to us externally.
Totally. And they're really clear that shifting your frequency
Okay.
isn't something that just happens passively.
So it's not enough to just want things to be better.
Not just wanting, no. You have to make a conscious choice
Uh.
about your thoughts and reactions.
Got it.
They even share this story about, having a really bad day.
Oh, we've all been there.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like a low frequency day. Things are just not going well.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then they decided to just change their attitude.
Interesting.
And boom, the whole day turned around.
Huh. So they're saying it's not just about waiting for good things to happen. It's
Eh.
about creating them by changing our internal state.
Absolutely.
Powerful stuff.
And to really drive this point home, they bring up Mike Rashid.
Mike Rashid, the entrepreneur.
Yeah, you know him.
Sure. Super successful guy, known for being incredibly confident.
Exactly.
I see where this is going.
So they're saying Rashid attracts these amazing deals and opportunities
Yeah.
because his unwavering belief in himself
Hmm.
affects how other people see him and interact with him.
Makes sense. If you walk into a room like you own the place, people treat you differently.
Right.
Okay, so I'm putting it all together now. What they're saying is the energy we put out there affects how people treat us, the opportunities we get, even the outcomes of what we try to do.
That's the heart of it, yeah.
Yeah.
But then, and here's the thing,
Yeah.
they say keeping that high frequency up takes real effort. Like, you got to maintain it.
Okay, so it's not just a one-time thing?
Nope. They compare it to having wealth, right? It's not enough to just hit a certain amount and then you're good.
Yeah.
You got to keep working at it, keep growing it.
That makes sense.
Same with your frequency. You can't just decide I'm high frequency now and expect it to stay that way.
It's an ongoing process.
It is.
Yeah.
And part of that process, they really stress this, is visualization.
Oh, okay.
Being able to actually see yourself already living that life you want.
I see. So if I can't even imagine myself being successful or happy or reaching that goal,
Yeah,
it's going to be way harder to make it happen in reality.
exactly. If you can't see it, you can't create it.
Got it.
And this all ties into how frequency affects our relationships, too.
Ah, interesting.
They talk about feeling blocked from connecting with certain people,
Okay.
and they think sometimes it's just because you're not operating on the same frequency,
Yeah, I can see that. It's like sometimes you just click with someone right away.
Right.
Maybe that's a frequency thing.
Could be. They also mention this more intense experience, though.
Oh.
Something called the war room.
What's that?
Apparently, they were warned about sharing certain ideas there
Really? Why?
because they might be too controversial or even dangerous. you know?
Wow.
But instead of backing down,
Yeah.
they're basically like, bring it on.
Whoa, that's a strong reaction.
It is. They even said that even death wouldn't be so bad if
Yeah.
it meant getting their message out there.
That's a pretty extreme stance.
Yeah, and just to be clear, we're not endorsing that viewpoint,
Right, of course.
but it does show just how strongly they believe in what they're doing. Like it's bigger than them.
Definitely makes you think about the power of belief
For sure.
and how it can affect your actions, even in life or death situations.
Absolutely. And speaking of death, you won't believe this.
What, ma'am?
They actually have a surprisingly positive view on it.
Really?
Yeah, they see it as like this natural progression to something better. They
Yeah.
talk about their mom passing away and how it actually brought their family closer.
Oh, wow.
And they stress focusing on love and joy during those times of transition.
Okay, so even in the face of loss, they're still advocating for keeping that high frequency.
That's right. Choosing to see the beauty and connection even in grief.
That's a really powerful message, especially for anyone going through something tough.
It is. They even compare it to conversations you have in the dark. You know?
Ah, interesting analogy.
Like when you're not distracted by appearances, you can connect on a much deeper level.
Those late night talks where you just feel truly heard.
Exactly. Maybe there's something more going on there energetically.
I like that.
Yeah.
So they're saying this frequency stuff isn't just about the physical world.
Right.
It extends to something more spiritual, a connection beyond what we normally experience.
That's their take, yeah.
So-
And get this, they even think we need to completely rethink how we think.
Whoa, okay, hold on. Rethink how we think.
Yeah, like a total overhaul.
What do they mean?
They say we need to separate from, as they put it, Eurocentric culture.
Interesting.
They think that whole way of looking at things is limiting us, trapping us in fear and scarcity.
So they're advocating for a more independent, self-defined way of thinking.
That's it. They even mentioned having this deep talk with Nick Cannon about all this.
Nick Cannon. Interesting.
Yeah, and they refer to both of themselves as ascended masters.
Okay, now I'm really curious. What exactly do they mean by ascended masters?
Well, they don't go into too much detail,
Okay.
but it sounds like people who have tapped into this higher level of consciousness, and they're using that to help shift humanity toward a better place. You know?
That's a pretty big vision.
It is, but it's also inspiring, right?
Yeah, it is. To think there are people out there working to raise that collective frequency.
Definitely. And this is where their own personal vision comes in.
Okay, tell me more.
They believe true wealth and power come from everyone being well.
Interesting.
And they see themselves as this unifier, bringing people together
Yeah.
through ideas that can change the world.
That's a big goal. But I gotta say, some people might be skeptical. It's one thing to talk about these big ideas, but how do you actually put them into practice? How do you make this frequency thing tangible, something people can actually use in their life?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right, exactly.
And it's something we'll dig into even more as we keep going with this deep dive.
Okay, good, because I have a feeling this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot more to unpack here. But for now, I think it's a good spot to pause.
Yeah, let's give our listeners some time to digest all of this.
Sounds like a plan. We'll pick up right where we left off next time.
Perfect. See you then.
Yeah. So last time we were just getting to this whole divine alchemist thing.
Yeah, that one really piqued my curiosity.
Right.
Alchemy and personal growth. I need help making that connection.
Well, think about what alchemists were trying to do.
Turn lead into gold.
Exactly. Transform something ordinary
Yeah.
into something extraordinary.
Okay, I'm starting to see it.
The speaker's saying we have that same power within us.
To transform challenges into opportunities.
That's the idea. Turn our struggles into something valuable.
So it's not about letting those tough times break us down, but using them to grow stronger.
Exactly. And to really bring this point home,
Okay.
they share this story about facing a possible 15-year prison sentence.
Wow, that's intense.
Right. And you'd think that would completely derail someone,
Yeah.
but they didn't let it.
How did they handle that?
It's actually pretty amazing. Instead of freaking out,
Mm-hmm.
they chose to see it as a chance to improve themselves.
Really?
Yeah, like, okay, if this is happening, I'm going to use this time to get in the best shape of my life, mentally and physically.
So they took control of the situation, even though it was totally out of their control.
Exactly. And they connect this whole mindset to the philosophy of Stoicism.
Stoicism, I've heard of that.
It's all about focusing on what you can control.
Right.
Your thoughts, your actions, your reactions.
Instead of wishing things were different or trying to force outcomes.
Right. It's about acceptance and then choosing how you respond.
That makes a lot of sense. So even facing prison, they focused on their inner world and used it to become stronger.
Powerful, right?
Yeah.
It really shows how our perspective shapes our reality.
If we can find a way to reframe even the toughest situations, it can totally change the game.
And you know what this ties back to? Flow. Remember that water analogy?
Oh, yeah. Be like water, my friend.
Exactly. Being adaptable, fluid, navigating those obstacles without resisting.
Like water finding its path around the rocks and stuff.
Yep. We can learn to flow through life's challenges that same way. Gracefully, resiliently.
I love that visual. True strength is about bending without breaking.
Now, remember earlier you were asking about the law of thermodynamics.
Oh, yeah, that one still has me a bit confused.
It's a physics law, but it actually relates to this stuff in a really interesting way.
Okay, I'm listening.
So the law says energy can't be created or destroyed, just transformed.
Right, I remember that part.
But the speaker takes it further, suggesting it shows how everything's connected.
Connected how?
If energy is always changing forms, never disappearing,
Yeah.
it means everything's part of this big, interconnected web of energy.
Whoa, so we're not really separate individuals then?
Not in that sense, no. Everything's kind of woven together. The energy in us, the energy in the stars, it's all part of the same system.
That's mind-blowing. It makes you realize we're connected in ways we don't even think about.
And that connection has a big impact on our relationships, too.
How so?
The speaker says everyone we meet is kind of a reflection of ourselves.
Okay, now that's an interesting thought. What do they mean by that?
They tell this story from Buddhist philosophy called the egg.
The egg, huh?
The idea is that we don't fully evolve until we've experienced every life, every perspective.
So we need to walk in everyone else's shoes to truly understand.
That's it. It's how we build real empathy and compassion. When we see ourselves in everyone, even the people who challenge us, we can react with understanding, not just anger.
That's a beautiful idea, but definitely easier said than done, especially when someone's hurt you.
Oh, for sure. It takes practice. But they're challenging us to see those difficult interactions as chances to grow. Instead of matching negativity with more negativity,
Yeah.
we choose understanding, kindness, even firmness sometimes, but always aiming to help the other person evolve.
We always have a choice in how we respond.
Oh.
We can either fuel that negativity fire or break the cycle and choose compassion.
And that choice affects our frequency directly.
Makes sense.
Choosing love over fear, understanding over judgment, raises our own vibration, makes the world a bit more harmonious.
It makes you realize how much we judge others without even realizing it, projecting our own stuff onto them.
It's so common.
Yeah.
But they want us to move past that, let go of judgment, embrace acceptance.
Which, again, reminds me of Stoicism, focusing on what we can control, not trying to control others.
It's a huge shift,
Mm-hmm.
but it can lead to so much more peace, both within ourselves and in our relationship.
I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together now. Frequency, perspective, flow, connection, compassion. They all point to a way of being that's more aware, more empowered, more connected to something bigger.
And the speaker's whole point is that this isn't some exclusive club. It's available to anyone who's willing to do the work, shift their perspective, raise their frequency.
That's really empowering. We have the power to shape our own reality.
Exactly. But, you know, this brought up a concern from some people who heard this.
Oh, what was it?
They worried that this knowledge about frequency and personal power could be used for bad, you know? Like, what if someone with bad intentions gets a hold of this?
That's a valid point. Knowledge can be misused.
Right. So the speaker challenged them to examine if their perspective was coming from a place of fear.
Interesting.
They contrasted a fear-based approach, focusing on what could go wrong, with an empowered mindset, focusing on how we can use this knowledge for good.
So it's about choosing to focus on our own ability to do good instead of letting fear hold us back.
Exactly. And then they went on to talk about the importance of being kind to ourselves, using positive self-talk.
We're often way too hard on ourselves.
Well, real. And our words have so much power, you know.
They really do.
They literally shape our reality. So they encourage us to speak to ourselves with power, affirming the good stuff instead of reinforcing the negative.
It's like we're constantly casting spells on ourselves, either for good or bad, just through how we talk to ourselves.
That's a great way to put it. And then they shared this really interesting story about a conversation they had with someone.
Oh, vulnerability.
Vulnerability.
The speaker was talking about embracing vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
And this person argued that just by being Black, you're already vulnerable, like it's not a choice.
That's a really complex issue. How did they respond to that?
They straight up claimed their identity as a god, rejected any